In March 2025, after more than a decade of silence, Ocean Infinity announced that the hunt for Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was back on. Armed with a new generation of autonomous underwater drones capable of scanning the seabed down to the centimeter, the company returned to the same lonely stretch of the southern Indian Ocean where the jet was believed to have vanished in 2014. These machines could dive deeper and stay submerged longer than any before them, using AI mapping and sonar imaging to build a detailed digital map of the ocean floor. For months, the sea remained silent. Then, one of the drones detected a faint but repeating signal, a pulse that didn't match any geological pattern. It came from the very region where experts had long believed the wreckage might rest. The data was sent back to shore, and within hours, the aviation world was on edge once again. Could it be that after 11 long years, the ocean was finally ready to speak? On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m., bound for Beijing. It was supposed to be an ordinary red-eye flight, carrying 239 people. The Boeing 777 was one of the safest and most advanced aircraft in the world, equipped with multiple communication systems and tracking devices designed to ensure that a plane could never simply disappear.
But 38 minutes after takeoff, everything changed. At 11:19 a.m., the cockpit sent what would be its final words. "Good night, Malaysian 370." 2 minutes later, the aircraft's transponder, its electronic identity to air traffic control, went dark. Civilian radar lost the plane entirely, but military radar told a different story. Instead of continuing northeast toward Beijing, MH370 had turned sharply west, crossed back over the Malaysian peninsula, and then veered south toward the open Indian Ocean. No distress call, no emergency signal, nothing. In the hours that followed, air traffic controllers scrambled to locate the missing jet. The early theories were chaos, hijacking, mechanical failure, pilot suicide, even terrorism. Yet none explained how a massive airliner could vanish without a trace. The last primary radar contact came at 2:22 a.m. It wasn't until days later that investigators discovered MH370's satellite handshakes, brief digital pings automatically exchanged with an Inmarsat satellite every hour. These ghost signals suggested the plane had continued flying for nearly 7 more hours, heading south into one of the most remote parts of the planet. Based on that data, analysts at the Australian Transport Safety Bureau defined what became known as the Seventh Arc, a curved band across the southern Indian Ocean where the flight likely ended. For weeks, ships and aircraft scoured thousands of miles of ocean. No debris, no signals, no survivors. Families gathered in airports, watching news updates that brought no comfort.
For the next 11 years, the search for MH370 became one of the most expensive and complex investigations in aviation history. More than 26 nations joined forces. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau coordinated the mission, deploying fleets of ships, aircraft, and underwater vehicles across the vast southern Indian Ocean. Between 2014 and 2017, teams mapped over 46,000 square miles of seafloor. They used sonar scanners that swept the seabed like underwater flashlights. Search vessels detected what seemed to be wreckage, only to find volcanic rock or ship debris resting silently in the dark. Then, fragments began to surface. In July 2015, a flaperon, a piece of the aircraft's wing, washed ashore on Reunion Island, east of Madagascar. Experts confirmed it belonged to MH370. finally proving the plane had gone down in the Indian Ocean. Later, smaller fragments were found in Mozambique, Tanzania, and South Africa. But despite years of searching, no one could locate the main wreckage or the black boxes that might reveal what truly happened. Families of the 239 passengers clung to fading hope. Governments issue final reports filled with technical data, but no clear conclusion. In 2018, Ocean Infinity took over the search using advanced autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs, capable of operating independently at depths of nearly 20,000 feet. The company's first mission scanned more than 43,000 square miles. But even then, the ocean refused to give up its secret. When the operation ended in 2019, the Malaysian government promised that one day, when technology advanced, the search would resume. In March 2025, that promise was kept. Ocean Infinity returned. After months of negotiation, the company signed a new agreement with the Malaysian government. The mission would cover roughly 15,000 square kilometers of the southern Indian Ocean, the same treacherous stretch where satellites had last traced the plane's path.
This time, the stakes were higher. Under the bold, no find, no fee clause, Ocean Infinity would only be paid if it actually found the wreckage. It was a gamble. The team wasn't chasing money, they were chasing closure. The company's newest fleet of AUVs was unlike anything used in previous searches. Each drone could dive to depths of nearly 20,000 feet, mapping the ocean floor with precision down to a single centimeter. They could run for 48 hours non-stop, navigating terrains so rugged that sunlight had never touched it. Operating from the research vessel Seabed Constructor 2, the AUVs worked in perfect coordination, fanning out like silent sentinels. Their sensors painted three-dimensional images of the seafloor in real time, using synthetic aperture sonar to detect even the faintest metallic traces. Engineers in Norway and Kuala Lumpur monitored the data around the clock, searching for anything that looked out of place. During the second week of the 2025 search mission, one of Ocean Infinity's drones began sending back data that stopped everyone in their tracks. The AUV, designated Unit 7, was operating in a section that satellite data from Inmarsat had long identified as the final arc of MH370's mysterious flight. It was an area already scanned years before, but never with this level of precision. As the drone glided 4 miles beneath the surface, its sonar array picked up an anomaly. Among the cold, featureless ridges of the seafloor, a faint echo returned, a pattern that didn't match any known geological formation. When engineers processed the data, the images showed something extraordinary: a long, symmetrical structure partially buried in sediment. Its edges were unnaturally straight, its contours sharp enough to suggest that it was made of metal. The formation stretched over 100 feet, almost the exact wingspan of a Boeing 777. The proportions, the angle of its alignment, and even the reflective density of the material seemed to mirror the aircraft's construction.
In the command room aboard Seabed Constructor 2, silence fell. Engineers crowded around the glowing monitors, cross-checking the data in disbelief. The coordinates matched one of the most debated sections of the Inmarsat 7th arc. For years, sonar sweeps had missed it, possibly because the wreckage lay buried beneath layers of mud and volcanic dust, invisible to older sensors. Now, the latest generation AUVs had the resolution to see through it. Over the next 48 hours, multiple drones were redirected to the same grid to confirm the readings. The results came back consistent. Ocean Infinity's data analysts began building a 3D reconstruction, revealing an outline that grew eerily familiar.
the curve of a fuselage, the hint of a tail section, the geometry of something designed, not formed by nature. Then, on April 3, 2025, just 3 weeks into the renewed search, the Malaysian government stunned the world with a single announcement. The mission to find MH370 was being temporarily suspended. Officials cited unfavorable ocean conditions and seasonal instability in the southern Indian Ocean as the reason for the pause. To the public, it sounded procedural, but for those following the operation closely, the timing raised questions. Ocean Infinity's fleet had just begun detecting anomalies in the zone that matched the final known coordinates. Their drones were in the middle of cross-verifying sonar data when the order came down: all operations to halt immediately. Engineers aboard the Seabed Constructor 2 were instructed to surface their AUVs and secure all collected data. In an official statement, Ocean Infinity confirmed that the campaign would resume later in the year, but behind the diplomatic language, insiders hinted that there was more to the story. Several analysts noted that the southern Indian Ocean is navigable for most of the year, and similar conditions had not stopped previous search phases. So why now? According to aviation experts interviewed by The Guardian and the Straits Times, the sudden pause may have been less about weather and more about information control. The sonar images gathered during the second week reportedly contained high-confidence signatures, data that could indicate manufactured structures on the seafloor. If confirmed, such evidence would require immediate coordination with international aviation authorities, insurance bodies, and even Boeing itself. Malaysia, still politically sensitive to the tragedy, might have chosen to review and verify the findings before making them public. Speculation began to spread online. Independent analysts shared leaked snippets of the mission's telemetry, noting that the coordinates of the final scans were nearly identical to the projected crash corridor from 2014. Some even suggested that Ocean Infinity's data had been classified under a non-disclosure agreement, preventing the company from sharing updates.
Back at Ocean Infinity's data center in Southampton, England, the real work had only just begun. While the ships returned to port, teams of analysts and oceanographers began dissecting thousands of gigabytes of raw data. The focus was clear: isolate the signal, identify the structure, and verify if it matched the path satellites recorded a decade ago. Using reference models from the 2014 Inmarsat data, investigators overlaid the new readings. The process was painstaking. Layer by layer, the shape began to emerge more clearly. A long, cylindrical object with defined edges, resting at an angle consistent with an aircraft's impact trajectory. Even the debris patterns surrounding it appeared to spread outward in a fan shape, eerily similar to computer simulations of high-speed ocean crashes. Experts at the Australian Transport Safety Bureau were brought in for independent verification. As the investigation moved deeper, attention began to shift from where MH370 had ended to why it had disappeared. In aviation historians, one name started resurfacing: Helderberg. It was the call sign of South African Airways Flight 295, a Boeing 747 that went down in 1987 under eerily similar circumstances. The flight had caught fire mid-air and plunged into the Indian Ocean. It took years before investigators confirmed the cause: undeclared, dangerous cargo in the forward hold. Chemical materials and flammable compounds had ignited mid-flight. Decades later, experts began drawing parallels. Both flights vanished without distress calls. Both crashed over remote waters. And both carried cargo whose full manifest remained incomplete. According to records released during Malaysia's 2018 investigation, MH370's final cargo included over 5,400 pounds of lithium-ion batteries, the same type of batteries linked to several onboard fires.
Aviation engineer John Cox, a former NTSB investigator, explained that lithium batteries can enter thermal runaway, a chain reaction that rapidly generates heat and gas in a confined cargo bay.
Even a small spark can overwhelm fire suppression systems. If such an event occurred aboard MH370, it could explain the sudden loss of communication and the aircraft's erratic course changes. Once smoke entered the cockpit, the crew might have been incapacitated long before realizing the full extent of the crisis. Others argue the theory fits too neatly. Boeing's 777 was equipped with advanced fire detection sensors, and no emergency signals were ever transmitted. Yet, experts note that in the Helderberg incident, similar systems also failed within minutes. At extreme altitudes, a flash fire could destroy communications before any warning reached the ground. The Helderberg ghost, as some investigators now call it, continues to haunt MH370's case. It serves as a reminder that not every aviation mystery begins with sabotage. Some begin with human oversight, with small decisions buried deep in paperwork. After 11 long years, the ocean has not finished telling its story. What began as one of the darkest mysteries in aviation may now be on the edge of revelation. If the sonar signals are confirmed, it would mark the greatest breakthrough in modern air crash investigation. For the families, the coordinates buried in that data could finally give shape to their grief. For investigators, it would be the key to understanding how a state-of-the-art jetliner vanished. The lessons of MH370 could transform global aviation safety, leading to new tracking systems, stricter cargo declarations, and international cooperation on deep-sea recovery.